Hi there. In this video, I want to cover why so many small businesses fail and what you can do to make sure that it doesn't happen to your business. Up to 50% small businesses fail within 5 years of opening. That's a huge alarming number, and it's really important that we understand what some of those reasons are so that way we don't make those same mistakes and we make sure that our business continues to grow and flourish. So if we look at some of the really common reasons on why businesses fail, we can kind of boil it down to one big theme. And that theme is it's the owner. It falls on the owner. It's owner's failure to adapt or just not manage the business well or not having those business skills that are necessary to have a growing and a flourishing business. Different reasons that lead to a business failing, they're really just a symptom of not the owner running the business well. So we're gonna get into those symptoms and how that ultimately falls on the owner and how that owner can correct some of those things to make sure so it doesn't happen. So as I mentioned, that it really comes down to the owner's lack of ability to run their business well. And one of those areas is not managing their finances well. It's the lack of financial management. So what does that mean? That means that there's cash flow problems. If you don't have cash to buy the supplies or make the payroll, or if you're not making enough sales, all of that, if you're not being mindful and watching your cash flow well, then your business is eventually going to run out. And the other part of financial issues is that you're not managing the business well by tracking some of the important metrics. Every business owner should know what their cost of goods sold is, what your overhead is, and what your net profit is going to be. All of those numbers, they give you, data that you can base your decisions off rather than just basing those off of, a feeling. So we want to make sure that we're basing our decisions on data. So some of those important things, if you're tracking those, if you're tracking your finances, you're going to know if your pricing structure is correct or where you're spending too much money or if you're not making enough money to survive and grow. So that would be the number one theme. As an owner, we have to take time and spend time on managing the business's finances well. And one of the ways you can do that is you have to separate yourself from just, working in your business to start working on your business. Put some time aside during the week to where you're going to review your numbers, right? Take a look at, whichever accounting software you're using, or if you have an accountant, take a look at those numbers. What is your cost of service delivery if you're in a service business? What is your overhead looking like? What is your net profit? And a lot of small business owners don't even know those basic numbers. So then how do you expect to grow and stay in business if we don't know what those numbers are? It's true, like what gets measured gets done. Please make sure that you're managing your finances well in your business. Our second big reason is marketing and planning issues. You have to take some time to understand that how are you going to market your business. It's very unlikely that you're not going to have competition. So there you have to take some time to see how you can separate yourself from the competition. So what's going to be your value proposition that not every other competitor is offering that would allow more customers or clients to come to you? So that's going to be really important for you to figure out. And then you need a plan in place to execute that. As a business owner, we can't just wait for customers to come to us. Especially initially, early on, we have to get out there and see how we can attract more clients and customers and what are going to be the marketing channel. Where are we going to position our business in the industry or in the marketplace in general? So that way we're set up for success. So that's a big issue, just not planning enough and not understanding where you're positioned in the market space. So what can you do about it? Again, you can't just be working in your business and be thinking how these problems are going to solve themselves. You have to take time to work on your business and work on some of this stuff. So how can you work on it? Again, take some time on the weekend or wherever you have some downtime, either write it down on a piece of paper or just either write it down on a piece of paper or type it, write down, work on creating a unique selling proposition or a unique value proposition. For example, being in your industry, you're going to have somewhat of an idea what your competitors are doing. And if you don't, then you do need to start understanding, why are they going to your competitors, and what are possibly some of the gap points that your competitors are failing at. And if you can fill those gaps, that will allow you to see more customers and get more clients. And you have to make sure that as you're marketing, that you're able to address the pain points that your clients or your customers will have. So you have to take some time to plan some of that stuff. So please, please, please plan and understand what your unique selling or your unique value proposition is, and where are you positioned in the marketplace, okay? And again, if you don't have those things that are really outstanding on some of those, then see like, okay, well, if we're all doing the same thing, where can I make my business better? Like, can I deliver this faster? Can I have better customer experience? Can I make my pricing a lot better to where it works really well for the customer and it still gives me a great profit margin? So all of those things, you have to think and plan for those. The third big symptom, or the reason that falls on the owners, is going to be, lack of management and execution flaws, right? Like, somebody could be great at what they do, but they also have to be great at on the business aspects, especially all across the key areas, right? Which is our marketing and sales, along with our operations and kind of the culture that you're setting at your place and what your customer experience is. So, as the owner, you have to take time to not just work in your business, but you have to manage the overall business, or you have to set it up in a way to where you have good systems and processes in place, so that way you're not the one that's putting out all the fires and not all the responsibilities are falling on you. So that's going to be the big third reason. If the owner is just feeling like that they're just on a hamster wheel and they're doing everything, and then they're not taking the time to see where the industry is going, so that way they can pivot properly. When the whole business depends on you, then you as the owner, you can't take time off with family. You can't even go to a vacation because you own your business, but are you really owning the business, or the business owning you? So make sure that you set up your business in a way to where you're able to delegate more to other people as you teach them on those tasks, and that you're putting good processes and systems in place that allows you to grow and scale, so that way eventually you can take some vacation time. We don't want to just buy ourselves a job. The business should be serving you well to where you also have a good life outside of the business. So those are some of the big symptoms that, ultimately people say that, yes, why do small businesses fail? They fail because of financial issues. They fail because of, like, they didn't have good marketing, or they didn't plan well, or they weren't managing the system or the business well. But really, it's all can be boiled down to how well can the owner do all those things. And I'm telling you, there's specific way that you can do that. And that is mainly going to be taking the time to work on your business, not just working in your business. And you have to think how you can improve on those different key areas of your business. How can you improve your marketing position that separates you from the competition? If your operations are inefficient and you're doing a lot of manual tasks, take some time on the weekend to see how you can work on improving those things, so that way it doesn't take your staff forever and then they're unhappy doing some of those things. So the big takeaway from this video is that, yes, those things on paper seem like they're true, right? That there's cash flow problems or financial issues, management issues, or marketing issues, but really it's an owner issue. You as the owner, you have to take the ownership of those responsibilities, and you can't ignore those. Your competition is not going to be ignoring those things. And you have to take some time, and you have to carve out some time to work on your business. And what does it mean to work on your business? Working on your business means that you're looking ahead, that you're planning, and that you're seeing what are your current problems in your business and how can you improve on those. We don't want to just, keep building or trying to grow our business on shaky foundation. You want to make sure, like, as your business is growing, that you're also those initial foundational elements, that those are being solidified. So please take time to work on your business. Make sure that you're addressing those problems and you're tracking everything, right? Well, maybe not literally everything, but you have to track some of your key measurements. What are your key results area? What are your key performance indicators? So If you know those and you review them on a relatively frequent basis, then you put yourself in a much better position to have your business succeed for years to come. Okay, so I hope this video helps. Let me know if you still have any questions or what you think your business is struggling with, and I'll do my best to answer that. So take care.